Hello, everyone. This is the MSPoweruser Podcast. This is the podcast for the Microsoft enthusiast and power user. We discuss the latest news from MSPoweruser.com and other great sources of Microsoft news around the world. My name is Vernon E.L. Smith, and I am joined, as usual, by Andrew Bennett. Hey there, Andy. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a real nice day here over in northern Ohio. Nice cool breeze. It's just really nice weather. The kind of day where you can just sit out on your back porch and just recline in a chair. So I've been enjoying that. How about you?
No. Well, I've had better days, actually, but I am very excited for the news, the Microsoft news. I've been very busy with other stuff, and it's always great to just dive back into my hobby, and I love this stuff.
Yeah, it's a real fun thing to do.
You said, I think you said on Twitter about some vintage games. Have you gotten any of those recently?
Yes, I have. Just earlier this week, I got a shipment of about 10 of them. It includes some real great stuff for the original Xbox, like Metal Gear Solid 2, Soul Calibur 2, Spider-Man 2. Yeah, good 2s come in 3s, basically.
Nice. Yeah, I had a very interesting situation today. My wife had a bit of a VIP, what do you call it, launch party of a not a club, but I don't know what you call it.
High class establishment?
Something like that. And she had a great time there, and she met this gentleman who just moved to town, and he identified himself as a nerd, okay, or maybe a geek. I don't know what is more or less offensive, right?
It's amazing how it's gone from something that was shouted as you got shoved into a locker to something that now people say, "Hey, I'm a geek culture."
Exactly. Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. And so as she was, I don't know, they were talking, somehow it came up that he podcasts. And my wife is like, "Oh, wow, that's so cool. You should meet my husband." And so apparently this gentleman and his wife and my wife and I, the four of us are now double dating whenever that's going to happen. It's interesting how podcasting can pull people together.
Yeah.
Or I guess we'll see. Maybe it'll drive us apart. But it
sounds like it'll be a fun time.
I'm sure it will be. It's just so coincidental. She just walked in here before we started recording and told me that. It's very interesting.
Better bring your laptop and microphone when you go.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I wasn't planning for that long of an intro, but it was. That's not bad. I think it's relevant, right?
Yeah.
I think people listen to this podcast for the news, and so we're going to cover some news. MSPoweruser.com, okay, it's a wonderful website that has some great news on it.
Yeah.
And one of the things, obviously, would be that we're covering is the latest builds. Microsoft Windows 10 build 14.379. Okay, so what's new? We've got mostly just some bug fixes here. We've got some, I'm sorry, I lost my spot here. Did you, I totally lost it. Do you have this up, Andy?
Yes, I do. And it's mostly fixes and improvements as we've moved past the stage of new features being added a while ago. You know, the Windows 10 anniversary update is feature complete. So this is just totally fixes. Now, it says that we fixed an issue where the size of the credential UI, might not be big enough to display the contents on a PC with high DPI, which Windows high DPI experience has definitely been pretty rough for a lot of people, so it's nice to know that they're fixing issues related to that. They also fixed an issue where the Action Center might crash after dismissing a large number of notifications, and also an issue where Centennial app launches from Starter Cortana wouldn't count towards those apps bubbling up in Start's most used list. And finally, they fixed an issue where no note would have keyboard focus after minimizing then reopening the Sticky Notes app. From there on, it goes towards mobile improvements, where we fixed an issue that could result in a stray focus rectangle becoming visible in certain apps, such as Groove or Cortana, after bringing up the keyboard. We fixed an issue where the aspect ratio of images on the live tile wasn't preserved if they need to be shrunk, leading them to appear stretched. And then finally, there's what's broken for PC and mobile, which mobile's got a bit of a longer list than PC. PC just has one issue where if you use Continuum from your phone on your PC via the Connect app, it will not work, and it will be fixed in the next build. On mobile, you won't be able to use touch to interact with PDFs in Microsoft Edge. It'll instead reload the PDF. And they said that we've heard you and we're investigating decreases in battery life on older devices such as the Lumia 830, 930, and 1520.
I want to stop there for a second because these devices are not new. And I think it's a really interesting contrast between Android and Windows Phone. Now, we're all Microsoft enthusiasts here. Not all of us use Windows Phone, Windows Mobile. But these phones, the Lumia 1520, it came out in the fall of 2013.
Yeah.
And they're still concerned. It's not like, oh, we want it to work, and if you have bad battery life, well, tough noogies. But it's basically they're trying to make it efficient. They're not even the bug fixes. I mean, they're still there, but they're digging even deeper than bug fixes. They're trying to improve the overall experience. And we'll talk about the Lumia 1520 a little bit later in the show too.
Something that I find really interesting about it is that comparing it with Android is that Android's a very fragmented place. Windows Phone, you've got some third-party Windows Phone devices, but the majority of them, there's Lumias, and Microsoft very much cares about their devices having quality experiences. So, they're going to go fix their own devices to make sure that their own operating system works the best on their devices.
Mm-hmm. And I think perhaps at this point, Microsoft is recognizing that most of the people that do still own these devices, either are not going to go to Windows 10 mobile on purpose, at least, not seek it out, or they are the enthusiasts that are already running the insider builds. And oddly enough, they have a lot of great data on that the way it is. Not oddly enough, but by design, there's so many insider people running these. So they really do see how it affects people and getting some great feedback. I like that about Microsoft, especially the Insider program.
Yeah, and they're also currently investigating Wi-Fi disconnection issues. If you're experiencing an issue with your Wi-Fi disconnecting, it says that you've got to go see a forum post and make sure to upvote Wi-Fi disconnection issues in the feedback hub.
Mm-hmm. And that's really interesting. That's kind of a funny way of doing it, actually. They're wanting people... They're expecting insiders to go read the blog post and then go back. I mean, like they're expecting that a very high percentage of people using these devices are actually reading this blog post. That's very interesting. Either that or they're just giving it lip service, I don't think is the case.
Another thing worth mentioning is that, it's insider program, not just everyone with a device. And the insider program seems to be full of very dedicated people who are very into the program. I mean, if they can sell T-shirts for it, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be people reading that blog post who will follow all those steps. Mm-hmm. And then the final change is that a reminder that they changed the backup format for Windows 10 mobile devices to reduce the size of the backup stored in OneDrive. And as a result, if you do a backup on a device running the latest build and go back to the released version of Windows 10 Mobile, which is build 105.86, and restore from your backup, your start screen layout just won't restore. Your previous backups will also get overwritten. So, you're going to want to disable backup if you need to go back to 105.86, you're going to want to disable backup on build 105.86 so it won't overwrite the 14379 backup.
Correct. Yeah, that is a bit confusing. So they put a big deal about it in here.
It's
basically what my recommendation for those people using a fast ring or even a slow ring build for insider build is change it up all the time. I do, because I don't ever go back. I very rarely go back from a restore. I back up everything just because it's free. It doesn't hurt me. Yeah. But I really don't often restore from it because all those little messed up bits, from the insider builds, and just as you use your phone, I just don't like to pull those forward. Two things. I just want to start fresh from a wiping the slate clean standpoint for the OS, but I also really like I really like the chance, almost the forced opportunity to start fresh with my start screen layout, to choose which apps I really want to use and which ones I don't. And also, even just to go through the settings again and to relearn them, dig a little bit deeper. As an enthusiast, I enjoy that, but I completely understand how people love that restore option. That's a great feature, and one of the strengths that Windows Phone has. Not that it's the only OS that has that, of course, but
Yeah,
I'm pretty happy
and
with it.
you mentioned digging around in settings and features to change things. That's something that really, after every build, even though Windows 10 is still feature complete, there's still a chance you'll still see some changes to the settings app or to a setting or two. Might see something that's become available or was removed, in fact, because, I've seen settings disappear before. Like, for example, in Cortana, you can no longer disable web search, as far as I'm aware. So it's always interesting to just go around and see what's changed in settings.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And often you won't really see much change at all from your start screen. An update, won't really give you. You won't see the main differences right away. So.
Yeah.
So
this is also
we're
the
talking.
Last build until after July 4th, which I find it a little silly to mention, seeing how the whole thing's a holiday. It's not like it's just 4 days. So yeah, but yeah, they pointed that out. So there that is.
Mm-hmm. So Microsoft did finally announce Windows 10 anniversary update when it is coming out. Basically. People were speculating on this. They anniversary update obviously is pretty indicative of a 1-year anniversary of its release, and they are pretty much hitting the nail on the head. July 29th was the official release of Windows 10, and they're pretty darn close.
Yeah, but yeah, August 2nd, which, as Zach Bowden pointed out on Twitter a few days ago, if he celebrated his anniversary with his girlfriend that late, he'd probably be in the doghouse.
That's a good point. But then again, if I celebrated my anniversary within the same month with my wife, I would be totally fine with it. But that is, I think that's a generalization upon the genders.
Yeah, but so it's a very big update, as anyone who follows this will likely know. It includes a redesigned start layout, which completely gets rid of the button to switch between your regular start menu and the all apps layout, instead opting for having just all apps scroll through right there with the most used section on top. Anything that was in the left section of the original Windows 10 start menu is still there, but it's either moved into a hamburger menu, which is certainly a very divisive thing. While it is consistent with some of their apps, a lot of people, myself included, don't think it's exactly the best experience for the start menu.
Mm-hmm. The traditional start menu, as has been on Windows for quite some time, it's great to go there if you. I think of the old start menu like on Windows 7 or earlier, kind of like the new hamburger menu, if you think of it that way. It's somewhere that you can go there because there's going to be stuff there that's important, but it's not necessarily the stuff that you're going to use all the time. This is my personal use primarily.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the evolution of the start menu for each individual going to it, that it really is easier for a Windows 7 user, in my opinion, to go from the Windows 7 start menu to the original Windows 10, learn that, and then it might be a little annoying to go to the next one, but it'll be easier than going from 7 to that, in my opinion, because it's an evolutionary design if you just go step by step, as opposed to what I'd call a revolutionary design, where a lot of stuff's changed. Users going to have to relearn stuff. If you're just skipping through stones and you go from stone 1 to stone 3 without going to 2, it's going to take a lot more effort to learn it, really.
Mm-hmm. A much bigger leap, quite literally. So, and I think I still prefer. I love the concept of the live tiles. Obviously, they're on the phones. I'm very, very happy with that. And on the desktop, I think it's very, very interesting and compelling thing for, I would say, somebody who is looking for something to do on the computer. Okay, perhaps you pull up your computer. What should I do next? Or the news. The weather, or whatever.
Yeah,
A new tweet,
it's
a
a good
mention.
way to not only just stay informed and active on the services you use, but it's just simply handy. I don't use live tiles too much, but I couldn't live without, say, the weather tile or sometimes the calendar tile for if I've got events going on.
Mm-hmm. The weather tile especially is a perfect example, and calendar exactly, are great for glance and go, information. It's hitting start and a start key or Windows key and pulling up, your start menu. Okay, you can see all that stuff. But I rarely actually click on any of those tiles. I don't launch apps that way very often. I basically launch either just start typing, or I use everything as on my taskbar, and I pin them on the sides or at the top actually, myself. And even simple things like File Explorer, I have all the shortcuts right in there.
Yeah.
Right click and you pull your shortcuts. So all the work I do is from the task menu. To launch things is from the taskbar. And as far as moving between apps, I don't go up to and hit the task switcher next to Cortana. I'll Alt Tab that. It just
I use Windows Tab so I can take off that task switcher icon. It's very handy for if you've got a bunch of windows open after working on something and you can just go clear them up that way. It's sort of similar to a feature on Mac OS, which I can't remember the name of for the life of me. I think it was Command Center or something like that. And having that on Windows is super handy. It's way more detailed than just Alt Tab, which still you're going to still use Alt Tab, of course. It's fast. It's made for switching from one window to another, but that task view button is meant for window management, not just switching.
Mm-hmm. The live tiles or the traditional start menu, start screen tiles, I think is a lovely concept, but I think people who really dig into their PCs, which is, pretty large percentage, I think, they don't need that. It doesn't do them much good. And back to the smaller, like hamburger menu style menu, no, it doesn't do much for me, really.
Yeah, the hamburger style menu, back to the talk about evolution versus revolution, is that I really do think partially that one of the reasons that the anniversary updates after the 29th and after the offer ends is that it's going to be a bit easier for users to learn, because the hamburger menu, when closed, means that all you see for a function is an icon. If a user installed Windows 10 before the anniversary update, they will know what those icons mean because they've always seen the text next to it up until now.
That's a good point.
I don't even know if it was an intentional thing. It likely wasn't, but it's something that it's very interesting from a design standpoint to look at some of this and how these changes are evolving.
That's really good insight. That's a good point, Andy. All right, well, one thing that Windows enthusiasts, especially those similar to myself who enjoy Windows 10 Mobile, especially the fast ring, was messaging everywhere. And the whole world exploded when it got pulled out, basically. The Microsoft enthusiasts had a great big fit about it. I was one of them. I kind of threw a little hissy fit. But messaging everywhere just seems like the most logical step forward. It seems the most plausible way to do things in the future. Okay, if we think, what is the right, what was the proper, 10, 25 years from now, like whatever, we look back, what is the right way to do things? And that seems like the right way to do things. Messaging from the PC, laptop, Surface, obviously, but it's pulled out, and it's basically using it in Skype is the new way to do it. So, Andy, I don't know you well enough, I guess, to know what you think of Skype.
I could just sigh for a solid 30 seconds, and that would sum up my opinions on Skype. It's a very bloated program, very slow. There's significantly faster messengers out there. Although I will say that Skype is the only messaging service I have ever used on a PlayStation Portable. it was also the only messaging service on a PlayStation Portable.
Wow, that must have been before Microsoft bought it, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
likely. It was like 2005, I think. And it was
Oh
supported
wow,
up until, boy, I think it was shut off maybe 2 years ago. They supported it for about 9 years, I think. Even
that's
after they
real.
bought it, they kept supporting it, and it was voice calls only, but they kept supporting it.
Wow, that's really really cool, actually.
Yeah.
Well, as a Microsoft mobile enthusiast, I have plenty of great reasons to enjoy Skype, and I won't dig too deeply into them. But something that people tend to forget is that Skype integrates well into Outlook, and this is something that you can't necessarily do video or voice calls via Outlook or Outlook.com. I'm sorry, Outlook.com. Go in there for your either calendar or email or whatever. You have a little Skype icon on the far right, top right, and that works so well for quick messages because, uh, especially with some Microsoft enthusiast friends of mine, that is great because I'm doing real work or something in there, or I just have it pulled up on the side, minimize it, and it works great for me because I don't want a lot of extra stuff on my work PC, for example, but having that works just wonderfully. Now, not that that's so full of features or anything, but it's
I got
one
it. Yeah.
area that people weren't necessarily expecting, I think, and probably gets is a little bit underrated.
So, yeah, it's something that yeah, I find very interesting because I didn't really think too much about that feature, but you mentioned that, and I think, one of the things to get me started on using a service, have a web version first. Maybe have a couple features got out, but maybe if it's good enough and I use it enough on the web version, I just might switch over towards your dedicated app for it later on. Because there's this kind of barrier of, oh boy, I don't want to go through installing an application. Oh boy, I don't want to keep cluttering up stuff in the start menu or desktop or whatever, or I just don't want to keep downloading and then finding out I have to get rid of some installer or whatever. It's the simplest thing in the world, but at the same time, there's still just this human reaction of, oh boy, I can't be bothered to install that.
hmm I understand. I get that. I'll just point out one more benefit that Skype has over Slack, for example. Slack is a great messaging slash productivity app service. It's available on a lot of things, and we use Slack for MSPoweruser. Well, one thing I love about Skype is that even if they're not available for the person you want to contact is not available for a phone call, you can just send them a video or audio message. Just drop it right in there. And to me, especially if I'm driving or something, I'm obviously not going to be typing something out. And so I'll just record a quick video message. You can do that with a lot of different messaging apps, but they're primarily focused more towards consumer, or even what do you call it, um, like it's not a child-based app, but I mean something like Kick or WhatsApp, for example, would be more. They lean more towards the video aspect of it, where Skype is can be very productivity minded, but does include the quick Skype video just to send them a video, where Slack does not.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing to point out because I will give points to Skype for they've got a well-rounded selection of features right now, but aside from the fact that from my experience and the experience of some people I know, that they don't often work as they should, or the program's too slow. It's just bloated, especially with some of the advertisements loading in. I had times when I tried to use it and it would take literally 30 seconds to load an advertisement, and and really that's one of the reasons people are kind of worried about messaging everywhere being moved over to Skype, is that they feel a lack of quality from the Skype team on the products they already have, so why give them another when their own doesn't work from the get-go?
That's a very valid criticism, and people get a little bit emotional about this because we, as Microsoft enthusiasts, we want Skype to work. And sometimes we're almost forced to use it. Not, we just feel obligated in some ways, but it just needs either Poop or get off the pot, right?
Something
People
like
need
that.
to, with Skype, they just need to make it better because we know they can, or choose something else. Messaging everywhere would have been a wonderful example of that. But
Yeah.
anyway, let's move forward. There's a couple of other. Okay, Skype is one of Microsoft's most common, most used services, but also Word and OneDrive are some of the very best apps in the Android Play Store. Last year, Microsoft Word was named one of the best apps of 2015. Of course, last year, yeah. And it basically is it's Office on the phone. Well, great. That's exactly what people want, or tablet, for example. And of course, it's free. Where to get some of the better ones in the store, which aren't necessarily even better, you'd have to pay for some of those. And even on Android, Microsoft Word has more reviews than Google Docs does in the Play Store. I think that's pretty impressive. Andy, do you use OneDrive or Word on your Android device?
I actually don't, mainly because I use Google Drive for quick transfers of files to my phone, and I don't really have much of a use for any of my OneDrive files on my phone. If I did, I would use it, but I don't have much of a use for it, so I don't. As for Word, though, I can definitely say that it is something that I would have used on many, many, many of my tablets and whatnot I've used over the years, because I can't remember the name of it at this time, but there was an Office app available on the Kindle Fire. And it was a very good app, except it couldn't open certain formats without paying microtransactions after already being a paid app. And I would expect that it's not the only Office app out there on Android like that. Not only does Word have some of the most name recognition you could find anywhere, but it's also got this certain level of quality recognition where you would expect the product to be above that. And the fact that it's free on there to begin with, it doesn't even require an Office 365 subscription, that's another huge boost.
Yeah, it really is. I like the direction that Microsoft went with that, making it free, at least a entry level. Well, it's not an entry level app, but it is their entry level version of it. And then of course you can bump up to Office 365 or pay outright for the full Office on the desktop. Well, speaking of using Word on a mobile device, probably the most use I got out of that was on my Lumia 1520, which I mentioned earlier. I got it in 2013, November, I think. And Lumia 1520 was exclusive to the U.S. on AT&T, or not exclusive to the U.S., but I mean in the U.S. it was only available on AT&T, and was a pretty good seller at that time. And oddly enough, I don't know what is going on with AT&T here, but they are, two things. Microsoft is pushing out the Windows 10 mobile update to the Lumia 1520. Now, that isn't that surprising. I mean, it's a 2-year-old device, so yeah, okay, I guess they're supporting it. But even more oddly enough is that AT&T is re-releasing this device. They are now selling it again on their website, and the worst part about it is that it's at the same price. It's $585 or something ridiculous like that.
Oh my! I was originally going to say that they were likely doing it to clean out stock, but they're not going to do it at that price.
No, they're not going to. I just do not understand this. And even the marketing material online is the same stuff that it launched with. Same pictures. Didn't even talk about 8.1 or anything. Obviously not Windows 10. I don't understand this at all. That price is just killing me. I mean, you can pick one up off of Swappa for, $200, maybe $300, depending on the condition. I don't understand this, but either AT&T doesn't understand their market, or us Microsoft enthusiasts don't understand AT&T's market. One or the other, but
I think there's a third option, actually. Someone put something back for sale and forgot to touch anything other than the button that said, yeah, make this available.
Well, boy, I hope it wasn't that option, but that's probably just as justifiable in this case, because I just don't get it. I love my Lumia 1520. It was a great device, a little bit too big, but still really awesome in a lot of ways. And now with Windows 10, People, you really should consider putting Windows 10 on this device. If you have it laying around, if this is like your third youngest phone, think of it that way, and it's just sitting at a desk somewhere, go and put Windows 10 on it, because even if you didn't even go Insider, you can go with the Upgrade Advisor app. You'll need to install that Upgrade Advisor app, and then it will basically walk you through all the steps you're going to need. It'll help back things up. It'll make sure you have enough space on there. It's really, really nice to help you go through the upgrade process. And you're going to get upgraded, I think, well, I don't remember the build number, but right to a Windows 10 production build, and then there's one more update after that, and you'll be golden. So I actually recently rolled back my 1520 to 8.1, and I just have not taken the time to go forward to Windows 10 proper, Windows 10 mobile proper.
Now, something that even if you don't take it to Windows 10 mobile, you'll be able to still install the Steam app for Windows Phone, which is, after much wanting for that among some people, it's finally here. It had no official announcement. It just popped up in the store. News sites reported on it. Valve stayed quiet, as they always do, and it works. I got to try it out on a Lumia 435. It is, again, as mentioned, a Windows Phone 8 app, which is a little interesting, but I could totally understand the reasoning here. It's that everyone, they said, we want a Windows Phone app, and, if Valve were to release just a Windows 10 mobile app, they would be excluding the devices that could not run Windows 10 mobile. So then you still would have people who said, oh boy, I have a Windows Phone, it's just a regular Windows Phone, cannot upgrade to Windows 10 mobile, I'm still screwed. Well, you're not going to have that in this instance. This is an instance where anyone is happy except for someone who explicitly wants a universal Windows Phone app, or universal Windows app, my bad, for Steam. But I got to try it. It's almost exactly the same as the Android version. The design is slightly different, slightly flatter, colors are slightly a bit more washed out, but it works, and it actually looks all right.
Well, I do not understand enough about that yet. I just am not a gamer, but it's good to hear your enthusiasm for it. An anti-segue from that to a rather disappointing, bland productivity issue. We didn't know where else to put this in the rundown, but Office 365 has really been giving me trouble lately. This is just personally, this isn't necessarily news, but I've had a year. I always buy a year at a time, and this last time that I upgraded, there was just an issue. The key itself, I don't know if any of you have gone through this before, but you have a, I don't know, it's a 16-digit or something key, more than 16 digits. I don't know what it is, and it works. I can verify that the key is active and not pirated or whatever. They're telling me this key works, but it still does not work. There's still an issue with it. Said it's with the account itself. I've been on talked with support for quite some time. Actually had perhaps an entry-level person help me with it, and then they said, well, let's try it with a different email address. So I did. I have multiple Microsoft accounts. I attempted to add it on that way as he directed, and he was actually through TeamViewer or something, and it took. And so now that key is stuck on a Microsoft account, a Microsoft ID that I do not use and have no intention of using for Office 365. So now they need to fix it, and they're having an issue getting it back. So they are quite. I don't understand it, but so they're working through that. I still have Office, but I'm getting this pop-up, hey, there's an issue with your subscription. You need to resolve it. I'm like, yeah, you sure do, because it's a challenge. It's not a challenge everyone goes through. To be honest, this is the first time I've had anything like this, as far as an issue with the subscription, anything in Microsoft services. I've had excuse me, I've had Zune or Xbox Music or Groove for years and years and never had any issues like this before. But it's kind of interesting how Office is kind of goobered up right now for me.
Yeah, that's a bit of a messy experience there. I haven't really heard of anything like that happening to anyone. With the only thing I can think of maybe similar is that there's times where I've gone to redeem codes in the Windows Store and they just didn't take. But then I went to Microsoft Edge and loaded up my account page there and manually entered it there. It was fine. But I assume you're already using Edge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use Edge. I still use IE11, and of course, Firefox, Chrome, Opera. I mean, like, you name it. So,
Yeah.
I guess not. I guess those are the only browsers I use. I don't use any more than that. But, what are we talking about? Okay, well, here's a not very good segue, but a tablet that can run all those browsers that we talked about. In the past, years ago, before Surface came out, you would have just specific apps that were browsers you could install on tablets. And of course, when Surface came out, that changed it. Surface RT was kind of in between there. But Surface has basically made mobile productive again. You could have everything you need to run, your traditional desktop capabilities on this super lightweight portable Surface device. And Microsoft basically reportedly will be releasing one Surface per year. Let me pull this up because I want to get it right. Oh, I'm sorry. One Surface. Wow. Report an all-in-one per year, or this year I should say. Wow. And what is this appealing to you, Andy? Do you want one of these in your kitchen? Next to the like as your kitchen device. Like I think of that for my wife. I may get something like that for her in the kitchen, but
I'm not sure if it would exactly be in the market for me, but I do find it interesting that if they would put the Surface brand on an all-in-one. Whereas the Surface brand, so far, every device in the Surface line, ignoring the Surface table that happened before the tablets, that was an actual table with a screen, you were able to, everything in the Surface line, that the modern Surface line, has been detachable. You could, excuse me, you could take a keyboard on or off your tablet. You could, even with the laptop with the Surface Book, you go from detachable devices to an all-in-one, which is, I would like to see them try and make that detachable, but not too much to attach or detach to that.
Well, oddly enough, the traditional Surface form factor is all-in-one. I mean, if you think about it, it has everything there already. But we think what a traditional, the concept of it all-in-one is basically this bigger, the big display and, the guts behind it. And I see those mostly in, kind of lower end, like we use them for training at work. We have several of those set up. They're just one, basically just a big thick monitor. And then also you see them in kitchens and things like that as a family device.
Yeah. I'm really just interested to see where this goes because, seeing how it's a Surface device, I do expect that Microsoft's going to do something very special with it. Or maybe not very special, but they're going to do something with it. When they, again, the Surface Book. At first I thought, it's just going to be a laptop, and it's going to be an intentional slap at the MacBook with that name, and then, you can detach the screen, just like every other Surface, but then they brought in the stuff like the extra GPU and the keyboard, and that's actually an interesting device. And then this, again, Surface line, everything before it has been an interesting or special device. I doubt it's just going to be a regular all-in-one.
There'll be something special with it. They're trying to set the bar, raise the bar and set the standard for what they want other OEMs to do. And this probably isn't any different in that regard, but it will be a different type of device. Obviously, they want to I think they're looking forward. They're trying to see what the future is expected to be and try to get there faster, and like to not just follow the traditional status quo. Obviously, they want to make the future.
Yeah. And making the future seems to be what tech giants are best at right now.
Yeah, that's they're trying to do, at least, and some are succeeding. Another not a great way to segue here, but something very worth sharing: the Groove Pass or
Groove Music
Microsoft
Pass.
Groove Music Pass is something I've been using for quite some time. Well, since they changed the name to it, but I've been using it before that. And right now, if you sign up for the, if you're a new user, you pay $10, $9.99 for the first month. And after that, you get an additional 3 months for free. So within 4 months, pay $10 for 4 months. You certainly should figure out whether you like it or not within that time. And there are many things to like about this, especially if you are running an insider build on the phone. You do have the Your Groove, which is kind of it's a curated playlist, but it creates those playlists based off of not only what you've recently played, or like, okay, play Katy Perry radio or something ridiculous, so status quo, but it bases it off of your OneDrive, the music you have in your OneDrive. So all of your music you can upload to OneDrive, but by having a Groove Pass, you get 100 gigabytes of storage on OneDrive, and you can upload it there. It sees what you have, and it's going to choose music you are more likely to enjoy based off of that and other things. So far, it's really good. It's gotten a lot of good reviews, and we're basically back to this ebb and flow of people liking or hating Groove, and we're back to the to where people are really enjoying Groove music. So if you haven't tried it out, check it out. A lot of people really like Spotify. I understand that, but Groove just might be just as good or better. It certainly is for some people.
I'm really impressed by how Groove has changed. I really hated the original Xbox Music app. I didn't use it back when it was Zune Music, but I assume I would have had the same or worse experience. But my original experience with Xbox Music was not very good. It was so long ago. It was back when they gave you a free year of it every time you installed Windows 8.x or early Windows 10. And it's changed so much. It's actually getting to the point where, well, I'm still stuck. I use local music only. I've been using Foobar for years, and I'm likely going to use that until the end of time just because of how low its memory imprint is, but Groove is actually starting to look appealing to me. Even though I'm not really much of the person who'd be into it, they are actually getting a really good-looking app going. And I find the timing of this promotion kind of interesting because it comes almost right about the time that Spotify's latest Get 3 Months for 99 cents promotion comes to an end. Definitely not as good a deal. And so the pricing there, not as competitive as I think it should be, but it's interesting timing nonetheless.
I've seen some strong rumors. This was a while back though, that Spotify really wasn't making any money at all, and that they're basically losing money giving it away at that price. Now, it's great for users because they get to enjoy it, and the more people you get on board, the stronger, the more valuable it is. But at some point, it needs to be producing, earning revenue or turning a profit. And Groove Music, I really haven't heard specifically if it's making money or not. But Microsoft is not Spotify, or Groove is not Spotify, obviously. It's part of the whole ecosystem that Microsoft, the whole long-term plan that Microsoft has going. And so they want to get people pulled in one way, and they can start using it on other devices. And they, this cross device usership, is that even a term? I mean, like the way you use it. I use Groove I have a Groove app, obviously, on my PC. I use Groove on the web for my work PC. I use it on my phones. I mean, I have an iPhone for work, and I can play it through there. Same thing with Moto G I have. I can play Groove through there. And, and of course on my Windows phones, Windows Phone 8.1 and Windows Phone 10, Windows 10 Mobile. And it's all the same music, obviously. It's my collection, and this isn't unique, but this is what Microsoft is trying to do, making it accessible. Now, Google Play Music, is that what it's called?
Yeah, Google Play Music.
There would not be an app on Windows Phone, and I guess I'm showing my ignorance. I do not recall if there's one on iOS. I'm thinking that there actually is. I'm not sure.
I think that there isn't, but I didn't spend any time looking around the iOS App Store for one. There would likely never be one on Windows, knowing Google's relationship with Microsoft. And I just want to go back a bit and just mention that it's very interesting, that you mentioned, Spotify, it isn't profitable. It's not just rumors. Maybe there are rumors now, but a year or two ago, there was plenty of news about how poorly Spotify was doing, about how poorly Tidal was doing, about how poorly all of this was doing, but with the exception of Tidal, now it seems like it's going to be bought by Apple. But regardless, it was backed by Jay-Z. That's it's got monetary backing. Groove has Microsoft's backing it. That's a gigantic tech corporation that can throw a huge load of money right behind it if they can throw 26 billion at LinkedIn.
It's an incredible number. Yeah.
Yeah, if they can throw so much at LinkedIn, they can definitely throw it behind Groove. Well, Spotify, a company that doesn't have the ability to keep that going, keeps it going. If you get what I mean there. It's kind of funny because, it should be Microsoft doing the 99 cents for 3 months and Spotify doing the $10 for 3 months.
Yeah. Well, maybe Microsoft isn't, maybe they're,
of course,
they're not, maybe they're not sprinting. Maybe they're, in a marathon. And, for a while we did kind of think that Groove was just this kind of afterthought, just there to say, yep, we got music. But this recent push, the major upgrades, updates, and then also these promos, I think are pushing it more to the forefront. And to be honest, I'm trying to figure out, I wonder when Microsoft would be making money with Groove. And when, I'm not saying they aren't.
I was about to say actually that maybe the reason they're doing it with $10 for 3 months promo is the fact that they actually want it to be profitable.
Yeah, I would eventually they do need to make a profit, but look what they've done. Well, with Windows Phone, I mean that really didn't show any profit. They had revenue, but it was not, and it was they were bigger numbers. They sold a decent amount of devices, but they weren't making any money on most of them and selling some at a loss. But look at Xbox, for example. You're probably the best one to talk about Xbox being there forever and finally making a profit after I don't know how many years.
Boy, I can't remember right now, but Xbox. Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff coming out about the early development of it and how Bill Gates initially thought it was an insult and all these original plans and stuff coming out in interviews. You keep an eye to the news and just search, original Xbox or something like that, or take a look at IGN as they're the ones putting out the interviews. You'll find all sorts of stuff about the original development of that and how it went from this underdog or something that wasn't expected to go great, and then look at it now. The Xbox One might be beaten. Well, some people might consider that the Xbox One's been beaten by the PlayStation 4, and in many ways, I would agree with that, but the fact that the 360 was incredibly strong, and the brand is still incredibly strong, and it's more than I think most people expected when they were originally giving the green light to this thing.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really performed well with time, and in the numbers versus the profit, or market share or whatever. I mean, look at iOS versus, let's just call it Samsung, for example. iOS or Android in general has obviously many times the mobile devices out there than iOS does and Apple does. But Apple makes a much bigger profit on those devices, and that's obviously what that company needs for it to do. And Google great big company, has a lot of things going for it, and involved with many things, doing many great things. But they're really not that well, rich, I suppose, is just the simplest way to explain it. And where Microsoft and Apple especially just have boatloads of cash and are just, taking their time. They're just going to be there. Even though iOS gets a lot of crap lately for being slow, and I understand that. But maybe they're not marketing to the fast people. Maybe they don't mind.
The issue with iOS is really more of hardware than the operating system, if you're going to ask me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that might be a story for another time.
Yeah, it certainly is. But, it's really interesting, the dynamics we have. When you just consider these big three, okay, we're not going to count like Amazon or Facebook, basically. But when you think about Android, Apple, or I should say Google, or Alphabet, right? Alphabet, Apple, and Microsoft.
It's still Google.
Yeah. But they all have their things they focus on, but they still compete with each other in nearly every one of those ways. It's so interesting to see how one area of Microsoft just completely overpowers one area of Apple or one area of Android, and Microsoft can be completely blown away by other areas of those companies, and between Android or between Google and Apple as well. Whatever. It's just interesting how that dynamic is, I suppose.
Yeah. Everyone's got their strengths and weaknesses. Microsoft is now offering $50 off the Xbox One Elite bundle. And this is a really good deal for anyone who's wanted to get in and get some Elites, as they are elite in pricing as well. But it's also worth noting that the Xbox One S is going to come out in August. I would personally suggest saving your money, as after that Xbox One S releases, you can expect the original models and the Elite models to significantly fall in price. And not only that, but there's likely going to be an Xbox One S Elite bundle. I would highly expect that to happen, and it would not be surprising whatsoever.
Well, I'm all about saving money, but one way I save money is just by not having an Xbox One. I save time that way too.
I'd love to get something related to the One, as right now I do not have an Xbox One because of price reasons, and I want to pre-order the Xbox One S, but the only version that is releasing in August is the 2 terabyte version, which is $400 American dollars. That is not something I can easily get.
It's up there, yeah. But it really depends where people want, for people who are, this makes sense, of course. If this is their hobby, okay, this is what they spend their extra money on. It's all they do, or, not all they do, but like, there's plenty of ways to spend. You can buy a relatively cheap firearm for $400. You can certainly have a gaming console that's going to last you plenty of years and all that. You get the idea. Yeah. And so it's just really a balance of.
There are cheaper variants of the S, though, such as a 500 gigabyte model that's only $300. That, according to the website, only come out in December. Mm-hmm. And it's bizarre to me personally, because
that's kind of funny, actually. I just want to interrupt because December, I mean, as long as if it's December 1st, maybe, but I would think the middle of the Thanksgiving would be the time for, middle of November, I should say, before Thanksgiving, at least in the U.S., is when that device should come out. Because that seems like that seems more like what's going to get bought for Christmases.
I'd say it was a Christmas thing, but I take a look at Amazon, and both the 1 terabyte and 500 gigabyte models of the Xbox One S release on December 30th of this year.
That's very odd. Now, Is that just through Amazon? It
was through the Microsoft Store as well. I just looked it up on Amazon real quick because I had it on the search bar.
Wow. See, that's surprising, but
yeah. I hope it's an error. I hope it's going to be a little earlier than that, because, I mean, yeah, like you say, November. If they release that in November, that is, okay, I can understand some of that. It's a new console release that parents will be able to afford for their teenager or whatever. It's a cheaper price. and they can easily come out and say, well, that Xbox One S, that was $400, you can now get this variant for $300 right in time for Christmas. But it's after Christmas.
And even, not just say for kids or whatever, but, grown-ups age, will not necessarily gift this to their spouses or something, but basically gift it to themselves. Okay, that's how us old people do that. It's like, don't go out, don't buy me anything. I'm gonna get exactly what I want.
I'm buying my own birthday presents now. I just go and say, you know what? I want to get all that. Here's my paycheck for this week. So much for saving.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we've got to be getting pretty close to the end here. One bit of pretty awesome news, which is not what we've talked about so far, a different type of news. MSPoweruser.com, the MSPoweruser UWP app, is coming out very soon. Now, there's been a lot of people asking about this, interested. I've seen some talk about on Twitter, and of course in our internal Slack conversation it's really exciting to hear this is coming out soon. I can't wait to have it right on my desktop at live tile flipping over in front of me, but also having it pinned, and just to be able to. One nice thing about the apps is that you get notifications and things like that built right in, which is cool.
And one of the better things, really, is that you get our voices, our podcast, built right into that app, and it's complete with Miracast streaming as well. It's going to be a very, very, very nice thing to try out, and it's, like Vernon said, it is releasing soon. We don't have an exact date yet, but it's not too far off.
It's coming, folks. You can expect it soon. So, all right, it's about time to wrap it up here. You can find, I guess we didn't even put this in the notes here. Andy, where can the listeners find you in the internet?
You can subscribe to the show using your favorite podcast app, and to do that, you want to first visit mspoweruser.com/podcast. Now from there, you'll find all sorts of subscription options. You'll find it on SoundCloud, on iTunes, Pocket Casts, Google Play Music, or if you just want to use a different player or want to go old school, there's flat out RSS. You can then see the latest show release, our previous episodes. We've got a few back there, and you can check all that out. And you can also just go to the main site if you'd like to just see the latest Microsoft news. Also be sure to follow Microsoft Power User on Twitter at MSPoweruser.
I am on Twitter at Vernon EL. Andy, where can they, where are you on Twitter? What's your handle?
At FusionFan45.
Cool. Well, that's about it for this episode, folks. Thanks for listening to the MSPoweruser Podcast. And we will be, the show is going to be available at the beginning of each weekend, every week. Yeah. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Take care.